Betty has a sister, Amy. Gail is Betty's mother. Meanwhile, Dan is Gail's father and Samantha is Dan's mother. Can you figure out how Amy is related to Dan? Here's why. Amy is Betty's sister, and Betty is the daughter of Gail. Therefore, Amy is another daughter of Gail. We also know that Dan is Gail's father. Therefore, Dan is Amy's grandfather. Betty is going on a date, and she's a little late. Her boyfriend, Stan, is already waiting for her inside their favorite coffee shop. Can you find him? It's this guy on the right. He has a small gift box on the table. After the date, Betty takes a car sharing to go home. The car is parked at this point. Can you figure out the only point Betty can reach? If Betty takes this weird route, she can only reach point 3. One of the most popular mailing websites is facing a system error. That's why the passwords of some clients are changed. Betty writes a message to the company's representative. My password is altered. I'm not able to log in. The company replies, this time your password is distinct and it has 8 letters, out of which 2 are the same as in your previous password. Betty replies, thanks, now I can log in. Can you figure out Betty's old and new passwords? Her new password is distinct, and the old one is altered. Betty arrives at her favorite swimming pool and spots something really weird. Can you see it too? Someone swapped these guys' shadows. After swimming training, Betty goes to the public shower. There are other people in shower cubicles nearby. Can you spot who's unwanted here? This person on the left should probably use the men's bathroom. He has only one shampoo bottle, while ladies usually bring a bunch of skincare products. Betty meets her best friend Rob. He always tells the truth. Rob says, I have one specific whole number on my mind. It's 1, 2, or 3. You can ask me just one question, but I can only reply yes or no, or I don't know. What question will you ask to figure out the number I'm thinking about? Can you help Betty? She should say, I have one whole number on my mind. It's between 2 and 3. Is the number I'm thinking of smaller or equal to your number? This way, if Rob replies no, then the number is 1. If he replies yes, the number is 3. And if he replies I don't know, the number is 2. Betty got a job as a cashier at a movie theater. A group of her first customers approached the ticket kiosk. 4 mothers, 2 grandmothers, and 4 daughters. What's the minimum number of tickets they need to buy? Only 6. Betty has 3 keys that open 3 different doors. How many attempts does she need to figure out the key for each door? Betty will need 6 attempts. First, she has to check the first key and spend 3 attempts for 3 doors. Then, check the second key, 2 attempts for the remaining 2 doors. And then, use the third key to open the last door. Betty enters the cafeteria and spots a thief right away. Can you see this person too? This elegant lady in the chair has a plastic detector attached to the stolen clothes. Someone robbed the movie theater. Betty calls the police and they arrest 3 suspects. Officers check the guys' passports. Can you spot a fake ID? Most passport pictures have a white background, so the one in the middle is fake. Late at night, Betty is walking home in a snowstorm. She meets her neighbor walking a dog in the street and freaks out. Can you guess why? The dog leaves footprints from only 2 paws. Betty continues her walk and sees another odd thing. Can you spot it too? It should be the moon, not Saturn. Betty enters her apartment building and meets 3 neighbors in the elevator. One of them is a werewolf. Can you guess who? This lady on the left. She's wearing a moon necklace. Betty goes to sleep and wakes up in an arena. The speakers announce that she must fight with one of these 3 hybrid creatures. Which one should she choose to stay alive? A polar bear with a head of a tiger, an elephant with a wolf head, or a hybrid with a face and body of a huge squid and the legs of a human? Betty should choose the 3rd hybrid. Since its body has gills, it won't be able to breathe and fight outside water. After the fight, Betty gets an invitation to meet the major investor of this competition, King Harold. She enters a big, beautiful hall and sees 6 people sitting in front of her. They're wearing the same outfit and look very similar. It's very hard to tell who's the real king here. But after a couple of minutes, Betty approaches one of them, bows, and says, "Nice to meet you, Your Majesty." How did she know who's the real king? All the other guys were looking at the king very attentively to imitate his manners and actions. Meanwhile, the real King Harold was sitting calmly. Betty returns home and faces bad news. Her cat Fluffy is missing. Betty questions her neighbors. Lily says, "Sorry, I didn't see any cats. I'm working from home. I spent all day working on my new book." Vanessa said, "I haven't seen Fluffy today, and it's cool because I have a terrible allergy to cats." And Bob said, "I think I heard a cat meowing on the balcony a couple of hours ago." Can you guess who stole the cat? Nobody. Fluffy's been hiding under Betty's couch all this time. Betty's boyfriend Stan lives just a couple of blocks away from her place. Betty calls him on FaceTime and invites him over. But Stan says, "Sorry, honey, I've just got home feeling very sick. I'd rather go to bed early." Betty yelled, "Liar!" and hung up. Why? Take a look at Betty's window. It's pretty dark. Stan lives only 2 blocks away, but there's a bright blue sky in his background, which means he's definitely not at home. Betty makes a beautiful sandcastle and then lies down. She falls asleep. In a while, Betty wakes up and sees that someone has ruined her castle. She asks 3 persons hanging out nearby, "Who did it?" Kelly replies, "I like your castle and took a couple of pictures for my social. Then I left to get some ice cream. When I came back, I saw the castle was completely ruined." Olivia said, "I'm sorry, I was swimming far from the shore. When I returned to the shore, I didn't notice any castles." And Tom said, "Sorry, lady, I don't see anything because I'm blind. The wind must have destroyed your castle. You shouldn't have to make it 5 stories high." Can you spot a liar? Tom is lying. He said he was blind. How did he learn the castle architecture in detail? Betty is using an app to find accommodation for her vacation. She likes 3 offers. Rose invites her to stay in a cozy bedroom on the 4th floor of her luxurious villa for the price of $50 per night. Jane is ready to host one person in a tiny guest house in her backyard for $30. And Tyler offers to rent his boat for $200 per night. Fishing equipment is included. Only one of these advertisements isn't fake. Can you guess which one? This villa is 3 stories, and Tyler's picture is hanging on the pier. He's a runaway thief. So, Jane's guest house is the safest option for Betty.
That's it for today. So hey, if you pacified your curiosity, then give the video a like and share it with your friends. Or if you want more, just click on these videos and stay on the bright side.
Hey there! Are you ready to get your mind blown by some absolutely stunning optical illusions? Or do you want to check how easily your mind can get tricked? Then watch our 11 optical illusions and let me know which impressed you the most. So here's the first one. Look at it attentively. What do you see here? Most people are sure they're looking at a 3D sphere on a patterned monochrome background. Or maybe you even feel that the ball is suspended in the air in front of some flat surface. In reality, this is a 2D image. The illusion occurs because of how the elements of the pattern are placed. Another 3D image, which is actually totally flat. I don't know about you, but it seems to me that I'm looking at sand dunes colored in a dazzle of zebras. But no, this effect occurs thanks to the different thickness and position of the stripes. Now, look at this picture. Don't take your eyes off of it even for a moment. See? The circles are moving. It's a popular motion illusion. One of the coolest things about it is that it grinds to a halt if you look at only one part of the image. Try it out. And if you start looking around, it begins to move again. Is it magic? These circles might look simple and unassuming at first, but try moving your head back and forth while keeping your focus on the dot in the center of the image. Do you see that the circles formed by the rhombi start to rotate? When you're tilting your head towards the screen, they move in one direction. When you get farther from the image, they move in the opposite direction. And isn't that cool? How about something even more baffling? Look at this image. This grating is moving vertically, right? Not really. It's moving diagonally. This illusion occurs when a diagonally striped pole rotates horizontally around its vertical axis. To the viewer, it appears as though the stripes are moving downward rather than around the pole. Why so? Because you see the pole through a vertical window, which provides you with very little information about what's actually happening to it. Look at this beauty! Doesn't this kinetic illusion make you feel as if the image is both streaming, shimmering, and moving all at the same time? But the picture is actually a bunch of lines of the same color coming from the common center. The next illusion you're going to see is beautiful. The longer you look at the picture, the less static it seems. The image appears to be rotating, even though it's actually not moving, not even a bit. This illusion occurs as a result of your eyes reacting to the size variations of the circles and interacting color contrasts. Wow, isn't this image bright and pretty? But don't stare at it for too long. It can give you a slight headache and make your eyes hurt. Anyway, now that I've warned you, Doesn't it seem to you that all these rings are rotating in opposite directions? I know this effect is extremely strong, but I promise it's not an animated GIF. It's a perfectly still image, but the design and colors make it look as if the rings are moving. Hey, look at this 3D purple landscape. Isn't it charming? The only problem is that, I bet you've already guessed, this is not a 3D image. It's the unusual bright pattern that creates this illusion. Here's another 3D illusion. This time, it's a checkerboard that seems to be bulging. Look at it attentively. The squares are perfectly straight. Their borderlines are parallel and perpendicular, but your brain insists this image is domed. The explanation is connected with the dots. They don't actually touch the borders of the squares. There's always a narrow margin, but your brain interprets those margins like lines, which messes up with your perception. And instead of the right angles, some of them seem acute while others appear obtuse. In this image, all of the edges are either vertical, horizontal, or at a 45-degree angle. But does it seem this way to you? I bet your answer is no. And there's one more thing you can do with this image to make it even cooler. Pause this video so that the image is static and move your scroll bar up and down. It'll appear that the illusion also has some element of motion to it. Awesome! Now, how about we try to figure out what makes it possible for optical illusions to trick our mind? I mean, you know 100% that what your eyes are telling your brain is wrong, but you just can't make yourself stop seeing it. Scientists are sure that sometimes our brain may unconsciously bend our perception of the world to meet our expectations. It fills in the gaps using your past experiences. In other words, it's not your eyes that play tricks on you. It's the way your brain interprets the image sent by the eyes. As an expert said, an optical illusion is a mismatch between the visual impression of the actual properties of the object. Anyway, my favorite illusion is the one with bright rotating circles. What about you? Share your opinion in the comments.
That's it for today. So hey, if you pacified your curiosity, then give the video a like and share it with your friends. Or if you want more, just click on these videos and stay on the bright side.
They say seeing is believing, but is it really so? Optical illusions have a mind-boggling way to trick our brains. They use a combination of colors, light, or particular patterns that can make us see things that aren't there. Today, we're taking our brains for a test drive to see how these illusions work. If you look at this image attentively, you'll notice a moving square that appears to be changing tones. What shades do you see? Dark, then light, then dark again. Wrong. The square doesn't change color at all. The creator of this illusion is a Japanese psychologist and artist, Akiyoshi Kitaoka. According to him, you can see your own brain changing its guess about the color of the square. Color is already an illusion created by our brains. It happens so that the color is created inside our visual systems. What our eyes perceive as blue is actually a wavelength that is reflected as that color. Neuroscientists say that about 50% of our brain is involved in the vision process. Visual signals are dispersed to more than 30 areas of our brain. Each area has a special function to process color, motion, depth, and form. All this information is combined, and voila! We can distinguish shape and color. Funnily enough, neuroscientists still don't understand the details of how all this happens, and neither do we, but we sure give it a try. Moving on. Let's take a look at this staircase. It looks pretty simple, right? Well now, let's flip the image upside down. It still looks like a staircase, but instead of going from right to left, it looks like it's going from left to right. But don't blink. If you blink, the illusion will disappear and you will be left with the original image. Whoa, I think my brain just got really tired. This illusion is known as Schroeder's staircase, and it was invented by a German scientist, Heinrich Schroeder, back in 1858. It's really simple, yet it reveals a fundamental mechanism of how our brain works. Let's understand why. If you sorta disassemble the staircase, you'll notice that the image is flat. What our brain perceives as a 3D image is just a combination of shadow and light. This means that the 3D itself is already an optical illusion. This happens because our brain captures images and tries to fit them into what it already knows. So it sees a shadow in a 2D image and it understands depth. Basically, it creates an unreal perspective of the object in front of our eyes. In this case, we call it a three-dimensional perspective. In 2020, Japanese mathematician Kokichi Sugihara took this illusion one step further. Let's take a look. At first glance, it looks just like a regular staircase. Again. But now, let's place an object at the top of the staircase and flip it at a 100-degree angle. I can't believe my eyes with this one. The object that appeared to be on top suddenly looks like it's at the bottom of the staircase. No wonder this work won Best Illusion of 2020. According to Sugihara, with this illusion, we are literally witnessing the way our brain tricks us into perceiving unreal things. At the heart of the illusion is a simple trick. The stairs aren't really stairs. They continue to be a flat 2D surface, making clever use of angles and shading to trick our brains. The 2D image was printed and glued into a basic 3D structure, but there is no real depth in the stairs, just the illusion of it. Got it? Look at this image for a moment and tell me how many bars you can count. This illusion has left the internet baffled. People have counted as many as 11 bars, but most count about 7 to 8 bars. According to the creator of this image, there are only 6 complete bars. Try counting from top to bottom and you'll notice that the upper bars are real. But by the time you get to the 6th bar, things start to get blurry and confusing. That's because the last 2 bars are incomplete, so when you try to count them, they appear to multiply and only leave you more confused. If you trace your pointer down the 7th and 8th bar, you'll be able to see that they are incomplete. They were only put there to confuse you. Can you tell if the dark blue lines are parallel to each other or whether they're inclined? They sure look crooked, but in reality, they're not. This classical optical illusion was first described over 100 years ago, but it wasn't until the 1970s that it got its current name. The cafe wall illusion. A guy named Steve Simpson noticed a similar effect on the wall of a cafe in Bristol, and here we are. Now, let's see how this works. First, let's blur the image a little bit. Oh, a little bit more. There you go. This way, you'll be able to see that the dark blue lines are parallel to each other. If you look closely, the little black and white bricks at the intersection of wide lines are what made this illusion possible. In addition to that, the curved elements inside the blue lines help to make the elusive effect even stronger. We'll understand why in a little bit. Up next, look at this black square, crisscrossed with perpendicular white lines. If you look attentively, you'll notice that the white dots situated at the intersection of the grid shift their color from white to gray and black. When you concentrate on a particular dot, you'll see that it's white, but as soon as your attention wanders, the dot turns gray. That's the Hermann grid illusion. Amazing, isn't it? We can take this illusion one step further by positioning white dots at the intersection of gray lines. All of them are placed on top of the black background. If you look at this image for long enough, you'll notice black dots starting to pop up at the intersections of the grid, creating a scintillating effect. Another name for this illusion is a simultaneous light contrast illusion. As you perceive the dots as white at one moment, and then, almost immediately, you see them as black. So, why do our senses let us down by making us see gray or black instead of white? This illusion demonstrates one of the most important principles of human perception. You don't always see things for what they really are. The retinal cells in our eyes act as light receptors. When only one cell receptor gets illuminated, it perceives more light than when its colleagues are also illuminated. This prevents the firing of nearby receptors. With the Hermann grid illusion, the white lines are arranged in such a way that there's more light around the intersections than along the lines themselves. Thus, the dots at the intersections are more inhibited and you see darker spots. This next illusion is called the Pac-Man chaser. You'll see why. Stare at the central cross for 5 seconds. The image appears to be in motion, doesn't it? And you might also see a green disk appear in between the lilac spheres from time to time. Now, this image allows us to witness 2 illusions simultaneously. Even though the image appears to be in continuous motion, nothing here is moving. We promise. This phenomenon is known as the phi phenomenon. It happens when stationary objects are placed side by side and illuminated rapidly one after the other, creating an illusion of movement. Now look at the center of the image again. Can you see the green disk? This illusion is called an afterimage, and this happens when your brain tries to substitute an item with something else as the original item disappears. But why is it green, you might ask? That's because green is lilac's complementary color. If we were to change the color of the disk to blue, then the color of the gap changes to yellow, which is blue's complementary color. Neat, right?
That's it for today. So hey, if you pacified your curiosity, then give the video a like and share it with your friends. Or if you want more, just click on these videos and stay on the bright side.